One buried clay pot uses 70% less water than your garden hose. And it's been working since 2000 BC. Persian farmers buried unglazed pots called ollas next to their roots. The porous clay reads soil moisture like a sensor, releasing water only when roots pull it dry. No timer, no pump, the plant controls its own irrigation. This technique survived 4,000 years across 3 civilizations. Modern scientists have spent millions trying to replicate this. We didn't improve on it, we just forgot it. In the next minutes, you'll see exactly how it works, why it outperforms drip tape, and how to build one for under $5. Secure your future by organizing your records today. Let's go back a bit, not a few decades. We're talking ancient Persia around 2000 BC. Farmers in the middle of one of the driest regions on Earth were growing crops that fed entire villages. They didn't have plastic pipes or pressure pumps. They didn't have anything we'd recognize as modern farming technology. What they had were unglazed clay pots. They called them ollas, that's O-L-L-A-S, and it's pronounced oyas. They buried these pots up to their necks in the soil, right next to the roots of their plants, filled them with water, and covered the top with a flat stone or a clay lid to stop evaporation. And that was it. That was the whole system. Now here's where it gets interesting. These pots weren't sealed. Because the clay is unglazed and porous, water slowly seeps out through microscopic holes, but only when the soil is dry. Microscopic holes ran through the walls of every pot, and water slowly, silently seeped out through those tiny holes, directly into the surrounding soil, but not all at once, not in a flood. Drip by drip, the water moved outward based on one thing and one thing only: how dry the soil actually was. When the soil was moist, the water barely moved. When the plant roots got thirsty and started pulling moisture out of the ground, the pressure dropped and the pot responded by releasing more water. It was like the plant was controlling its own irrigation, which technically it was. Think about that for a second. Your plant decides when it needs water. The pot just responds. No timer, no guesswork, no overwatering, no underwatering. Just a perfect loop between the soil, the roots, and a buried pot of clay. This is called subsurface irrigation through osmotic pressure. And it's so elegantly designed that modern agricultural scientists have spent years and a lot of research money trying to replicate what these ancient farmers figured out without any of that. But before you run outside and start burying any old pot you find in your garage, there's something you need to know. Not every clay pot will work. And this is the mistake that trips up most people who try this technique for the first time. If the pot is glazed, meaning it has that shiny, smooth coating on the outside, water cannot pass through the walls at all. Glazed pots are sealed. They're beautiful, sure, but for olla irrigation, they're completely useless. You need raw, unglazed terracotta, the kind that feels slightly rough and chalky on the outside. The kind that gets dark when it gets wet because the water is actually soaking into it. That texture, that porosity, that's the whole point. Here's what the research actually shows. Studies comparing olla irrigation to regular surface watering have found that ollas use between 50 and 70% less water. It's to grow the same amount of food. In some drier conditions, those numbers go even higher. And the plants don't just survive with less water, they actually do better. Root systems grow deeper and stronger because they're chasing moisture at root level. Instead of waiting for it to drip down from above, plants watered with ollas tend to show less disease, less wilting, and more consistent growth. There's a reason this technique survived for 4,000 years. Across Persian, Chinese, and Native American farming cultures. Now here's a detail that most online guides skip right past. And it matters more than people realize. Where you bury the pot changes everything. If you place it too shallow, say just a few inches down, the water seeps mostly into the top soil, which dries out fast in the sun. And it doesn't help the roots much at all. If you bury it too deep, the water never reaches the top root zone, where the plant is most active. The sweet spot for most vegetables and herbs is burying the olla, so that the shoulder of the pot, the widest part, sits about 6 to 8 inches below the soil surface. The neck sticks out just above the ground so you can fill it. That depth puts the water release zone right in the middle of the active root area. Plants basically get handed exactly what they need, right where they need it. And speaking of plants, not every plant responds to this equally. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, eggplant, cucumbers, and most root vegetables absolutely love olla irrigation. They're deep drinkers. Their roots go looking for that slow, steady moisture, and they grow right toward it. Herbs like basil, parsley, and cilantro do well too. Shallow-rooted plants like lettuce and spinach get some benefit, but they're really designed for surface watering. And container plants indoors, forget it. Ollas are a ground soil system. They need soil volume to work properly. One thing that surprises most people when they first try this is how rarely you actually refill the pots. In a typical summer garden with medium heat and normal soil, a 1-gallon olla might need refilling once every 5 to 7 days. In very hot sandy conditions, it might be every 3 days. In cooler, clay-heavy soil, once a week is often plenty. Compare that to surface watering, where you might be out there every single day in the heat, sometimes twice a day, watching water evaporate off the surface before your plants use it. With ollas, almost none of the water is wasted to evaporation. It goes straight into the soil. There's also something happening underground that you can't see, but that plants feel immediately. When soil is watered from the surface, the moisture creates a layer that gets used up fast and then gone. Roots near that surface get used to shallow water and stop reaching down. Over time, the plant becomes dependent on you. It needs constant attention. Olla irrigation trains roots to go deep, and deep roots mean a plant that can handle stress. A plant that can survive a missed watering day. A plant that doesn't wilt the second the temperature spikes. Farmers in regions where rainfall is unpredictable have known this for centuries. The buried pot doesn't just water the plant, it builds the plant's resilience from the ground up. Now here's something that most people who revive this technique run into eventually: algae. Because the pot neck is open to sunlight and you're constantly adding water, green algae can start growing. It doesn't hurt the plant. But algae buildup can clog the pores of the clay and reduce how well the water seeps through. The fix is straightforward. At the end of each growing season, pull the pot out, scrub the inside with a stiff brush and diluted white vinegar. Rinse it thoroughly, and let it dry completely in the sun before storing it. That's all. Do that once a year and the same olla can last you decades. Some olla pots have been found at archaeological sites that are still intact after thousands of years. Clay, when it's not abused, is one of the most durable materials on the planet. You might also be wondering whether you can make your own ollas. The answer is yes, and it's actually pretty satisfying. You can take 2 basic unglazed terracotta pots, the kind sold at almost any garden center. Seal one end closed with waterproof exterior clay or aquarium-safe sealant. Attach them opening to opening using the same sealant. Leave a small hole at the top for filling, and you've got a functioning olla for under $5. It won't be perfect. The pores on commercial terracotta are sometimes inconsistent, but for a beginner trying this out, a DIY olla will absolutely get the job done. While you figure out whether you want to invest in proper hand-thrown ones, there's a growing community of potters specifically making ollas for sale. And the quality difference is real, but you don't need to spend money to start. There's a more uncomfortable question buried in all of this. If this technique is 4,000 years old and proven to work, cheap to set up and uses half the water, why did we stop using it? The honest answer is that industrialization made farming into a numbers game. Big agriculture runs on scale. You can't easily bury 10,000 clay pots across a 1,000-acre farm. Drip tape, sprinklers, and center pivot systems work at massive scale, in a way that individual ollas simply don't. And when the whole world moved toward industrial farming in the 20th century, a lot of the smaller, smarter, older techniques got left behind, not because they stopped working, just because they didn't fit the new system. But here's what's changing. Things are looking different. Home food gardening has exploded over the last several years. Water prices are rising in many parts of the world. Droughts are hitting regions that used to count on regular rain, and millions of people are waking up to a realization. The advice they learned, water daily, keep the surface moist, is actually backward. Ancient farmers in dry climates didn't fight against water scarcity, they designed around it. And that design, that buried clay pot, is still just as effective today. If you're a home gardener spending your summer hauling a hose around every evening, watching your water bill climb, watching some plants die of thirst while others drown, try one olla, just one. Pick your most difficult plant and bury a pot next to it. Fill it once, then step back. Watch what happens over the next couple of weeks. You might find yourself buying more pots. You might wonder why this wasn't the first thing anyone taught you. And if someone asks, tell them it's been around since 2000 BC. We just forgot about it for a while. Maybe that forgetting is finally over. If this made you look at your garden differently, consider dropping a comment below. It's always interesting to hear what people are already growing, and what questions come up when they try something new. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. There's a lot more coming about simple ancient techniques that modern gardeners are quietly bringing back. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more ancient gardening secrets.